It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Except mosquitoes. Hate mosquitoes. Okay guys, it's a beautiful day under quarantine as usual. Today I'm going to be planting some of the peppers outside because they're getting really big inside and I can't keep them under the grow lights anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little experiment. I'm going to go ahead and re-amend the soil that's in some of the old containers, and I'm going to use a mixture of either peat moss, coconut coir, and of course cow duty, or cow manure, or cow compost, whatever you want to call it. It's cow crap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add some fertilizer to the peat moss or coconut coir, and I'll show you how I do that. Usually it's going to involve the use of 2 buckets. Doesn't matter if you want Home Depot or Lowe's. I have no brand affiliation, so I've just got 2 of them. Let me let that traffic go by quick. The Lowe's bucket has a bunch of holes, which I'll show you why in a minute, and the Home Depot bucket doesn't have any holes, so depending on your brand preference, you can drill holes in one or the other, just not both. Alright, we'll get started. Okay, first things first, if you're using coconut coir, you're going to want to go ahead and rehydrate this first, and I'll show you why I use the bucket here. So I've got one of the packages out already. I don't really have any preference on brand, but I've always used this one and I've had good luck with it. So usually they come in these little bricks that are, I do this one-handed. Yeah, they're big, substantial bricks, so they're about as dry as they come. And we're going to want to get those rehydrated so they're nice and fluffy again. So the reason I use the bucket is, you see this one has a bunch of holes in it, and to fill the Home Depot bucket with some water. What we're going to do now is, oops, leave the plastic behind. Go ahead, put the coconut coir in there, and then submerge the Lowe's bucket, or whichever bucket has the holes in it, into the bucket with water. And we'll leave this for a little while, and hopefully it'll be rehydrated in a bit. It's going to take a while. My hands are dirty now. Alright, so about a minute in, I realized that you should only probably add 1 of those bricks to a bucket. This stuff swells up pretty well, so I had to like quickly grab the top brick, break it off, and then throw it into another bucket. So right now we're looking at just 1 bucket's worth of coconut coir, or 1 brick of coconut coir in a bucket. I've gone ahead and given this a stir. As you see, it looks, let's be honest, this looks disgusting. But it's just coconut stuff. So what we want to do now is it's had a little bit of time to soak, and the reason we do this is just because this stuff is usually grown overseas near a beach or anything, so there's usually a lot of little sand particles that comes out of this after you hydrate it. So what this allows you to do is make sure that all that sand gets loosened up and then sinks to the bottom of the bucket. And by using the bucket with the holes in it, you allow all the water to drain off, and then all the stuff that's left over in there is all the stuff you don't want, like the sand and salt and God knows what else. Right. So also at the bottom of this bucket there'll be some sand, so just don't dump all of this into your mix. So we'll let this drain out for a little bit and we'll get started in the next step. So basically you could do the same thing with peat. Peat is a little bit better in terms of like not having any salt, so you can probably just skip this step as far as rehydrating, and I'll show you what to do with this next. So just in case you're curious about what comes out of that coconut coir, here's a bunch of sand that came out of it. I actually threw away the first batch, and then this is just what was left in the bucket. So there's a lot of sand that comes in those products, not to mention all the salt, the problem the salt water. So you probably want to wash that a few times and just get it as clean as possible. Okay, while the coconut coir is draining off, we're going to make some MasterBlend mix. Usually I make this in 5-gallon batches with a ratio of 15 grams of MasterBlend, 15 grams of calcium nitrate, and then 10 grams of Epsom salt. So if I made a 5-gallon batch, pretty much the bucket would overflow. So I've put in here about 3 gallons of water, and so I've just kind of roughly halved the mixture that I usually use. So I'm using around 8 grams of MasterBlend, 8 grams of calcium nitrate, and then 5 grams of Epsom salt. so we'll go ahead and mix those. So first thing that goes in is the MasterBlend. Take our fancy stirring stick here and stir that up until it gets dissolved. Isn't this exciting? Okay, next thing that goes in is the Epsom salt, not the calcium nitrate. And then the next thing, and the last thing, is the calcium nitrate. Okay, and next thing we'll do is we'll add back the coconut coir, or if you want peat moss, whichever one, and we'll just watch it slowly sink or splash violently, whichever one. And what we're trying to do here is, that was not me. What we're trying to do here is basically make sure that the coconut coir or the peat moss has some nutrients in it, because when we plant this back into the container, we'd like everything in there to have some kind of nutritional value for the plants. So this will add some lightness to the soil mix, as well as give the plants something to feed off of. So we'll let this soak in here for a while, then we'll do the same thing. We'll drain it out, let it drain, and then we'll go ahead and start getting ready to mix up the rest of the components for the soil. All right. Okay, so we've got everything we need here. We've got the coconut coir, we've got some Fox Farm, and some Black Kow. So we've also got a container of soil that I used for last year's pepper plants. You see it's pretty dry and crumbly, and probably most of the nutrients have been kind of depleted. So let's go ahead and dump that in there. And in case anyone a lot of people always ask, this is a number 7 can. I think this is 5 gallons, if I remember right. Looks like 5 gallons. So just in case anyone asks, this is what I usually use to grow peppers. Sometimes I use 10 gallons, but this is my main go-to. Or is it 7 gallons? I can't remember, honestly. It's number 7, so it has to be 7 gallons. Or whatever it is. So as you see, this soil is pretty crumbly. Still not looking too bad, but what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add some of the coconut coir. And I don't really have a specific ratio for this. I'm just kind of experimenting this year with it. So what I'm going to try to do is, I think this is a number 1 container. If you can see, it says number 1. Also says made in China, but I won't hold that against it. So we're going to fill this one up with some coconut coir, and then I'm going to fill it up with 1 cup of Fox Farm and then 1 cup of the Black Kow. And that'll be the ratio I use for this particular pot. So we'll see how it works out throughout the growing season. I'm not too worried about it, because at the end, I'll continue fertilizing these peppers with the MasterBlend mix that I put in one of my other videos. So it won't be really that big a deal. If it's, the only thing I could worry about is if the mixture is too strong, which I don't think it's going to be. So let's go ahead and get 1 cup of this stuff, or 1 container of this stuff. Ugh, moist. Okay. Okay, and then we'll grab a container of this. And then a container of the cow poop. Let's call it what it is. Need to take a really good shower after this. This batch has a lot more sticks in it than usual. And some kind of twig. we're going to mix this up as best as possible. Alright. So next thing, we're going to put this back into the pot. And we'll start planting peppers in there and see how it works out. As I said, I'm not too worried about this. Just if it doesn't work out, I'll just start amending the soil with more Fox Farm or Happy Frog or Miracle Grower or fertilizer. So really I just need some basic media for the peppers to start growing in. One thing I am going to do is I'll make another video when I'm actually transplanting the peppers and show you how I'm doing that similar to last year. I'm just going to add a little bit more Fox Farm or Happy Frog, and then I'll also add some mycorrhizae or the bacteria that I can never pronounce. So I found every year you do this, your container is going to be a little bit more, you're going to have leftovers basically because you've added material in here. So if your pots were full to start with, you're going to have leftovers. So you can use this to fill another pot, or if you're feeling generous, you can add it to your garden, just anywhere as yard material. I sometimes just add it into another container and plant some other small plants with it. So as you see, this one's pretty much almost full, so I can add another container and that'll pretty much be, oh, maybe two. And that'll be about as much as you want to add in there for right now. So I think we're done for right now. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and plant a pepper in here. I've dug out a hole here that will fit the pepper plant. Obviously if you put it in there, it should be deep enough to reach the pepper up to the top node. Or the first node, I should say. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a little bit of this coconut coir that we soaked with the fertilizer just down at the base. This will give it something moist to sit on. I'll add a very thin layer just to keep the plant roots away from that. And then what we're dealing with today is this, I think, is a Scotch Brain. Yep. So we're going to go ahead and try to get this out gently. As you see, it's a nice plant. She's already got some flowers, but none of these flowers will turn into peppers inside, so we're going to try to get her outside. Hopefully I can get her out without doing too much damage. Like that. There we go. And as you see, she's got a really nice root system here. She's a little bit bound up though, so what we want to do now is add some of this mycorrhizae or mycorrhizae, and you know I can't say this, so I'm just going to say it's bacteria. Add a little in the hole too. And this needs to be directly on the roots. Usually I'd spray this plant down, but the soil is pretty moist already. So I'm going to dig this down just a little. And what I'm going to do now is, this is some of the Fox Farm. So this will give the plant a good start. And usually I try to press this down a little. And just go ahead and add some more soil to that to fill up the container. As the season goes by, the dirt will start sinking down and some of the organic material starts breaking down, so you'll want to fill this up a little bit more than usual. And I like to make sure that the plant is packed up, and every year I lose a leaf when I'm replanting. So I think that should do it. So go ahead and relabel it. Last year it was a Scotch Bonnet, this year it's a Scotch Brain. And I will get finished with the rest of the plants and then show you what those look like later in the season. But for right now, first plant is in the ground or in the container and is going to go outside. So If you guys want to see an update of the garden over the summer, just go ahead and subscribe, and I'll continue putting these videos out there and you can see how the plants are doing. Alright, we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, I kinda like playing with this. I know, I'm a sick person.